Hi guys, it's Mistress Nightmare here, and today we'll be reading chapter 6 of You Are Special. Before we get started, please hit that like button, comment, subscribe to this channel if you guys want more creepy positive fan fictions out there. Until then, let's get started. It's been almost a month since Wyan moved in with the killers, and needless to say, she never regretted her decision to live with them. Ever since her powers were fully awakened in her, and she felt like she needed to spill blood. Unlike everyone else, she did not target random people. Instead, she targeted those who inflicted pain on others, bullies, released criminals, people that were labeled as unpleasant. She will often get teased by Jeff and started that her targeting was soft, but she will always scoff and ignore him. Ever since Zogo started, he would come be back for her anytime Wayne went out on a hunt. Slenderman made sure that she was with someone, which with her in an annoyed way in a little bit, but she understood where he was coming from. Tonight, her target was a bully from her high school that Jeff was assigned to be her escort at this time. He grumbled about it, but Wyan told him that he could put the bully's parents to sleep while she focuses on the bully. He seemed to be interested this time, but eagerly went along with her. Wyan and Jeff snuck into the house through the window located in the back. They both went upstairs and separated to claim their victims. Wyan opened the door to Michael's room. She wasn't surprised when she saw tons and tons of makeup products leaning the desk. And she calls me ugly, she quietly said to herself as she saw the girl bundled up in the covers, not having a care in the world. The blankets were pulled off her with an unknown force. Her eyebrows knitted together slightly. When she felt the cold air around her touching her skin, she lazily opened her eyes and rubs them. Huh? Then she felt something coil around her ankles and yanking her off the bed. That's when she let out a scream, one of the scariest and most stuff into her mouth, silencing her her cries for help. Well, what do we have here? Marshall looked up to see her favorite punching bag, otherwise known as YN. Her eyes grew wide, and she stared at YN's glowing red eyes. It seems like the only reason you called me ugly is because you're even uglier. Now that's not nice. YN held out her hand, and something floated in front of them. Marshall's heart leapt into her throat when she saw the two knives. I'm sure you'd be much prettier if I painted you in red. Such a pretty color, but not as pretty as black. But still. Let's start with the face. The knife floated and pointed straight at her. Oh, by the way, I'm not a witch, Wyan said evilly, enjoying the horrified look on Marshall's face. I'm your worst nightmare. The knife started to stab her in the face multiple times, but not going too deep and avoiding killing her instantly. Marshall can only produce muffled screams as blood streamed down her face. In the other room, she was able to hear the screams of her parents. Her eyes rolled in the back of her head, knowing that when she was done, she was good as dead. YN looked, and she saw Jeff had run in for a bit before the police came in. I know you've been skipping meals and getting yourself skinny, but let me help you with that. Now the knife started to stab parts of her body once again, avoiding anything vital to keep her alive much longer. Marshall was close to passing out from the pain when YN decided that it was boring enough to end her life by stabbing her with both knives in the heart. Need some lessons of torture, a voice said from the doorway. YN turned to face the now bloody killer. Oh, really? Knowing Anyone who's willing to teach me? Well, me, maybe. Oh, really? YN raised her an eyebrow. Maybe, if I feel like it. Well, then I'll be looking forward to it when you feel like it. It seems you can use the lessons on how to do your murders quietly. Whatever. I'm a little hungry. I want to go raid the fridge for something quick. Knock yourself out. I'm going to see if she has anything black so I can snag it. Jeff went downstairs while YN looked through Marshall's closet. She had to admit the girl had taste in good clothes, but nothing in the colors. The only thing that was black she really found was a fashion scarf with a pair of black lace boots that fitted her. Nothing much, but it will do. She gathered the items and was about to go downstairs when she heard a loud yell coming from there. That sounded like Jeff. She dropped what she was holding and quietly made her way downstairs. When she got there, the last step, she heard another voice. Hold still, you freak. They should have called for backup. Nah, we got this. One of the big boys finally got to see we can do without them. YN tiptoed down the hall and peeked from the doorway and into the living room. There was 2 police officers. Far away, and there was Jeff on the floor in handcuffs. Standing over him were 2 officers. YN guessed that there were rookies. Jeff was squirming like crazy while the other officer tried to grab him and get him up. He lunged forward and bit down hard on the officer's arm. Hearing the scream of his partner, the other officer drew his gun and shot Jeff. Lucky for him, it only grazed his shoulder, but still hurt and he let go. Hey, are you okay? Yeah, I think we should get rid of him permanently. YN's blood ran cold when she heard those words. Probably should say he attacked us. He would get the death sentence anyway. YN heard enough. When the officers drew their guns and about to shoot, they were yanked out harshly from their hands, and they were floating in front of them in the air. What the? YN walked into the kitchen, heel boots clicking softly on the wooden floor. They both turned around and heard her approach. Who the hell are you? Your worst nightmare. Before the police officers could ask that statement, the guns were suddenly shoved into their mouths. They tried to pull them out, but YN kept them firmly in there, almost reaching for their throats. It's time for you to wake up from this nightmare. Now. The guns fired. The sounds went down the officers' throats. They were muffled as they fell to the ground dead. She walked over to the bodies and searched them, and she found a pair of keys. After that, she freed Jeff from the handcuffs, who rubbed his wrist sorely. Thanks, I guessed. No problem. Jeff placed a hand over his wound, which was still bleeding, and YN noticed, but quickly went to the kitchen and came back with some cleaning rags. Here, use this to stop the bleeding until we get back, she said as she presses the rag against his arm. He let out a small hiss of pain and lightly swatted her hand away, but quickly put the pressure on his own injury. Yeah, I don't need you to tell me that. YN sighed, knowing that the murderer's pride was making him act this way. She stood up and said, We should go. Slenderman's going to get worried, and I don't think walking around with you injured like that is going to help me if Zalgo appears. Yeah, right. I can still take the guy with both my arms injured. The guns floated to YN's side. Care to test that theory? Hey, I was only joking. The guns were placed back on the ground. I was too. I knew that. Yeah, says that to your face. Go to sleep. Slenderman will kill you if you try that. Oh, shut up. Jeff stood up and said, Let's go. Any longer, we're going to stay around here. There's a high chance of someone might see us. Yeah, both of them jogged out of the neighborhood, slowly walking down. When they were safely in the woods, Jeff, we should take care of that wound, Ryan said as they entered the house. It's just a flesh wound. It will heal on its own. But it could get infected. Come on, let's get it treated. Just leave it, will ya? Jeff walked upstairs to his room, but when he was about to slam the door in Ryan's face, it swung open with full force. She stood there, her eyes glowing red, demon eyes, and a first aid kit floating beside her. Sit down. Jeff let out a small meep sound. Ryan may be a girl, but she can be scary. Scarier than Slenderman when she's angry. And she doesn't get that way. Fine. Calm your tits. What was that? Nothing. That's what I thought. The box floated alongside her as she pulled up a chair from his desk and positioned it in front of the bed. Now let's get this. Ryan's face went bright red in the sight of Jeff pulling off his bloodstained shirt and sweater off, exposing his rather surprisingly toned stomach and pecs. Jeff noticed Ryan staring and smirked. Like what you see? Ryan shook her head frantically, as if, oh, don't feel bad. I want me too. Jerk. Ryan worked with red face as she worked on cleaning Jeff's wound, trying to secure a knot on the bandage and announced done. Ryan wasn't really expecting a thank you from the killer, but she simply began packing the supplies into the first aid kit when Jeff grabbed her by the arm and pulled her onto the bed. His body was above her, just the way he did the other night when he went to break into her house when she was locked the door in her temporary powers. Jeff? Ryan stuttered as she looked away in the half-naked body. What's wrong? He teased. Jeff, get off me. Or so help me, I will fling you to the other side of this mansion. Oh, that's nice. But I've noticed that you can't actually move things when that's made out of flesh and blood, unless you truly in despair. Ryan slightly glared at him, trying to hide the fact that he was indeed correct. She scoffed and continued looking away from him. Shut up and let go of me. Ryan, look at me, Jeff said seriously. Ryan noticed the serious tone in his voice and wondered if she could comply with him. Sighing, she finally turned her head and looked at his unblinking ones. Jeff stared down at her, an unreadable expression, before releasing one of Ryan's wrists and brushed his fingers against her soft skin of her face. Jeff, you are so beautiful. Ryan knew that her blush would be permanent at this point as she took in Jeff's compliment. Thanks. Aren't I beautiful? My mom, me, and dad didn't think I was. It tried to kill me for it. Jeff was usually half-lit eyes began to moisten in them, and Ryan realized that he was trying to hold back that he needed to cry. She reached up with the hand that Jeff freed and stroked his cheek with one of her hands. Jeff, you are, she said with a smile on her face. Ryan. Without another word, Jeff slammed his lips against Ryan's. Her eyes grew wide for a second and closed them. Feeling very shy about this, she felt Jeff's tongue poke her lips, asking for entrance. But she shyly denied him that. Flustered, Jeff reached in the back of his hand and slipped and stroked Ryan's exposed thigh. She let out a startled gasp, and Jeff took the opportunity to slip his tongue into her mouth. Once his tongue passed her on her lips, they began to wrestle with Ryan's unsuspecting tongue. which easily lost the battle. It had no choice but to allow him to do whatever he wanted. A slight moan escaped her lips, but she was able to feel Jeff smirk. The moment passed before they pulled away. They were now panting, and now Jeff had some red decorating his face. He stared down at the girl before him, the way her soft pink lips parted as she panted and blushed, as the blush on her cheeks was indeed an incredible sight. Damn. What? I never knew you could be so sexy. Huh? Jeff stroked the inside of Wyan's thigh again. She bit her lip, preventing any sound from coming out. Oh, come on. You are no fun. Oh, shut up. Shy little virgin, are we? Hey, there's nothing wrong with being one. You're right. 'Cause that means I can be your first, right? Eh? Jeff began to lift the skirt of her dress, but Wyan grabbed his wrist, stopping him. Jeff, I'd rather say that for someone I love. Well, really? Then tell me. He leaned closer to her face. Do you love me? I. Wyan looked away, unable to answer him. In the truth, she did harbor some feelings towards the killer, even though about him drew her to him. The way he called her cute, pretty at random times, the insane way he killed, his carved smile, never blinking eyes. She found these traits highly attractive. Before Jeff could ask, Wyan was sucked up in shyness and lifted her legs a little, slightly rubbing against Jeff's crotch, and slightly giggled at the stunned look on his face. So, what if I do? She tried to keep a brave face. After all, you're the one who protected me from Zago. You're the one who brought me here, and where my life has been so much better. And not to mention, you're very beautiful yourself. So how can I not love you? Jeff's smile grew even wider. Oh, is that so? And what about you? What about you, Jeff? Do you love me? How about I show you with this? Jeff began kissing Wyan passionately as she wrapped her arms around his neck, bringing him closer to her. To his delight, she whined a little as he pulled away, but yelped when she felt him attach his lips to her neck. Jeff, you're so cute. For a little virgin, that's it. That is, he chuckled and nipped at a certain spot, causing Wyan to throw her head back from the pleasure she was feeling. Jeff bit down harder and licked at the love mark he had left on her neck, kissing it, and said, "Now everyone will know you are mine." This was embarrassing. You know, they were going to bombard me with questions, especially Ben. How about we just forget about them and just focus on each other for the night? Fine. Good. Jeff fully pulled up the skirt from Wyan's dress, revealing the slightly soaked panties. Wet already. I barely even done anything. Wyan glared at him. Before she could say anything, he added, "We're going to have so much fun tonight."